A few weeks ago, I shared this video where this guy claims to turn into a cute girl in real time. You can see that even when he pinches his face, it remains consistent.
其实是很完善的，包括像这种捏脸什么的，它都是一个常规操作。这个东西是不会破相的，就是包括什么。
He can also eat things, and the face still remains consistent. You just gotta ignore all those awful male chewing sounds.
对吧？吃饭、喝水，还有什么摸脸。
Anyways, a lot of people were asking, well, what tool did he use? Can I do a tutorial on this? Well, I'm gonna show you how to do exactly that in this video. I'm gonna show you how to install it and run it. You can use the face of anyone you want. And yes, you can do this in real time. And as you can see, it syncs to my talking and my expressions very well. I can smile. And the face remains fairly consistent this whole time. And there are plenty of preset options you can choose from. So for example, here we have Jackie Chan. I look ridiculous in this. And you can see even if I pinch my face, it doesn't really distort. It still remains very consistent. And then let me turn it back to this cute girl face. I can eat food with this. Not bad, not bad. And you can see the face remains fairly consistent this whole time. You can also take a single photo of a face and sync it to yourself in real time. So right now I'm talking, I'm moving my head, now I'm smiling, and it's able to map my movements onto this photo in real time.
You know, I started this YouTube channel around a year ago, and never would I have thought that a year later I would be here doing a tutorial on how to turn yourself into a cute girl in real time.
But, I mean, I've gotten a lot of comments requesting this tutorial and I love my fans dearly, so as promised, here's the tutorial. Now, first of all, this is a real-time face swapper. This is not a hair swapper. So if for whatever reason you want to turn into a cute girl, well, you do need to get a wig for this. But it only costs like a few bucks on AliExpress. It's not going to break your bank. Alright, so let's go over the installation. If you go to this GitHub page, which I'll link to in the description below, and you scroll all the way down, you can see, first of all, some system requirements. So the good thing is it doesn't have to be just an RTX CUDA GPU. You can use this with any DirectX 12 compatible graphics card, and so even older generations of RTX GPUs or AMD GPUs are able to run this. So you'll need at least 4 GB of RAM plus 32 GB in your hard drive for the paging file. You'll also need at least Windows 10. By the way, I'm using a Dell Precision 5690. You can integrate a powerful RTX 5000 Ada into this. Huge thanks to Dell and Nvidia for sponsoring this. And then if you click on main setup, the first thing you need to do is install the latest graphics drivers for your video card, and then you need to set the virtual memory to 32 GB or more. So on Windows, you would search for Advanced Settings and then click this one, View Advanced System Settings. And then once you're in here, under Performance, click on Settings, and then in the Advanced tab, you should see Virtual Memory. So you can see my total paging file size is 5 GB. So I will click Change and then uncheck Automatically Manage, etc., and then click on Custom Size, and then set the maximum size to 327868, which I see here. And then initial size, I'm just going to enter in the current allocation, which is 5120, and then click Set, and then click OK. And then note that you do need to restart your computer before it takes effect. So click on OK, and then OK, and then OK again. Alright, and then under Releases, here's the really nice thing about installing DeepFace Live. They've compressed everything into one standalone zero dependency file, which you just double click to run, and then it would go ahead and install all the functions and dependencies for you. So you don't actually need to manually install this, install that. It's just one file which you double click and it would extract and install everything for you. So there are 2 links you can click on. I'm going to click on this one, and then you can see there are a few builds here. I'm using NVIDIA, so I'm going to select the most recent one, which is on July 9th, and then click the 3 dots, and then download, and then standard download. So this is 2.6 gigabytes, so it's going to take a while. I'm going to pause this video and wait for this to finish. Alright, so the download has finished. I am going to double click on that exe file, and then you might see this Microsoft Defender screen pop up. With all of these open source AI tools, do download it at your own discretion. Anyways, I'm going to click on more info and then run anyway. Alright, so next you're going to see this. Now, just to keep everything more organized, on my desktop, I'm going to create a new folder, and let's just call this Deepface Live. And then here, I'm going to change the extraction folder to Deepface Live. Alright, so it says the total size is 7 gigabytes, so this might take a while. Alright, once it has extracted everything, we can open up the folder and then double click on Deepface Live NVIDIA, and then there would be this Deepface Live bat file. So going back to the GitHub, all we need to do to run the program is to double click on this Deepface Live.bat file. So I will double click on this and let's see what that does. And voila! Now, depending on your computer, this might take a few minutes to load up, but eventually you should be able to see this window. Alright, there are a lot of settings here, so let's go over each one. If you open the interface, you're going to see 4 columns. And basically, the data from one column will get passed on to the next column, which gets passed on to the next column, and then finally the last column, and then you'll get your output video over here. Now, for this first node, this is the file source. If you turn this on, this is basically where you can upload a video and then apply face swap to that video. But of course, for our tutorial, we want to do this in real time. So let's turn this off, and we would turn this node on instead. This basically turns on a camera source. So for me, I have a webcam built into my laptop, so it knows to automatically connect my webcam to this. But if not, you can always select your webcam or whatever input source you have in this drop-down list. And then there are several drivers that you can choose from depending on what drivers you have, but I just tend to leave everything at the default, and it should be able to pick it up automatically. And then down here, you should be able to see a video of yourself through your webcam. There are very few software tools that I use every day, but this is one of them. Thanks to our sponsor, TurboType. This is a tool that I personally use every day. It's free forever and it saves me so much time. Basically, you can create custom keyboard shortcuts so that you don't need to keep typing out repetitive things. For example, if there's a prompt that I use in ChatGPT very often, I can make a shortcut here, and then when I go to ChatGPT or anywhere else, I just need to type in the shortcut, and voila! Or let's say I have a very long email address. I can also make a shortcut for that so that whenever I need to enter in my email, I can simply type in the shortcut and it types out the email. Finally, it also supports rich text. So for example, you can add in bold and italics and add links to your text as well. So let's say I need to send out a lot of cold emails with the following template. Well, I can just create a shortcut for that. And then whenever I start an email, I just need to type in the shortcut and voila! The text is already styled and linked for me. This tool saves me so much time every day. There's absolutely no reason not to use this because they have a free forever plan. So definitely check it out and download the free Chrome extension in the link below. Alright, so your webcam video will be passed on to this next column for further processing. The first one is a face detector. It detects and locates your faces in the source input, and it uses an algorithm to do so. And there are several algorithms for you to choose from. Each algorithm has subtle differences on how it detects a face, so feel free to play around with each of these. I don't really notice an obvious difference between these algorithms, so I just tend to leave everything at the default. And then for the device, you can select either CPU or a compatible GPU if you have one. And that's another great thing about Deepface Live is that you don't need a high-end NVIDIA GPU to run this. It might still work with just a CPU. Now, of course, if you select CPU, this is going to be way slower. So I'm going to set this to GPU, and then feel free to tweak these settings if you want, but again, I just tend to leave everything at the default. And then so down here, you're going to see this mesh of points, which signifies that your face has been detected, and these points basically detect the dimensions and the features of your face. And then this next node basically aligns the detected face to a standard position and scale. And you can adjust these settings if you want to cover more of your face or less of your face, but this tends to just work well right out of the box, so I just leave it at the default most of the time. But depending on the shape of your face or head, you might need to tweak these settings a bit to get the right configuration. Alright, so that's the aligned face. Again, you should see your face but with a mesh of green points overlaid on it. And then this gets fed into the next column. So in the next column, the first node is called the face marker. This is responsible for detecting and marking facial features. This usually involves identifying key points on your face, such as your eyes, nose, mouth, and jawline. This process is important for aligning the face swap with your face and ensuring that your facial expressions and movements are accurately tracked. And then so here are different types of face marker algorithms that you can choose from, including OpenCV LBF and Google Face Mesh and Insight Face. Again, I just tend to go with the default. I don't really notice any obvious differences between these algorithms, but feel free to play around with it and see which settings work best for you. Alright, now the next three nodes are the most important things in this interface. Each of them offer different functions of face swap, so we're going to go over all of these right now. Let's start with this middle one here, Face Swap Insight. So let's turn this on, and then it might take a few minutes to load depending on your hardware. Now, if you load this for the first time, again, for this section, choose GPU if you have one, because it's going to be way faster than a CPU. And then for your face, you can select a predefined face or upload your own. So actually, if you click on this eye icon, it will bring you to this folder. And this folder is actually located in your DeepFace Live folder, which you installed, and then in user data, and then in animate tables. This is where all your images are located. So you can see there are some defaults like Biden and Elon Musk, Kim Jong-un, Putin, and then for me, I just basically took a screenshot of the girl in the initial video that I showed you, and then I saved the image into here, and then I named it girl0.png. So back in this DeepFace Live interface, if I select from the dropdown, note that I have girl0.png over here. So if I select that, this might take a while to load, but in the bottom, you should see that we have our swapped face over here, and it should sync to your webcam video. And by the way, if you don't see this node might be collapsed, so you might need to click this arrow to expand the node. Now, here are some additional settings you can tweak. These basically control the shape of your face. So feel free to adjust these settings depending on what face you're swapping into, because each face is different. So I do find that sometimes you need to tweak these dimensions a bit to get the right configuration. And so basically this node takes in one still image of a face and then uses that to swap out your face. So let's open up the folder again. Instead of the girl's face, we can try, for example, let's try Putin and see what that gives us. And oh my god, what have I done? This is moderately horrifying. And then if I select Elon Musk, let's see what that gives us. Bloody hell, this is absolute nightmare fuel here, my friends. Now, again, keep in mind that this is just a face swapper. This is not a hair swapper, so if you do want to impersonate Elon Musk in real time, well, you probably need to get a haircut that looks like Elon Musk. Anyways, let me switch back to that cute girl face. And then let's move on to the final column. So next we have this node. Note that all these three nodes need to be turned on for you to get your output video. So the first node is called Frame Adjuster, and this is basically responsible for pre-processing your video before it undergoes face swapping. So it makes slight adjustments to ensure that the frames are in the best state for face swapping. And this leads to more consistent and more realistic results. So if your face doesn't look quite right, feel free to tweak around with these settings until you find the right configuration. But again, I usually just leave it at the default settings and it should work well. Alright, next node is the face merger. Now again, if you have a GPU, definitely select your best GPU, otherwise you're going to get a lot of delay. Now this face merger node is where the actual face swapping happens. This takes the processed frames from above and merges the new face onto your face. So here there are some further settings you can tweak to adjust the alignment, or the colors, or the smoothing and the blending. But again, I usually just leave everything at the default and it should work well right out of the box. And then finally we have this last node, which takes the final video and outputs it to a window or another output of your choice. If this is, for whatever reason, collapsed, just click this arrow to uncollapse it, and then you should see your full video. And then if you click on window here, this window should pop up with your final video. Now there are multiple options that you can choose from. So for example, here in this drop down where it says source, right now we are just selecting the merged frame, so this is your final output, but you could also select source and merged frame, which would give you a side-by-side comparison of your original webcam video with the face swapped video. Alright, so we've basically covered the entire workflow and we got this to work. We uploaded one image of a face, in our case it's this girl face, and then we are able to apply this face swap in real time. But this is just one method. Remember, there are actually 3 things you can do. So let me turn this off now, and then I'm going to turn on Face Swap DFM. DFM stands for Deep Face Model. Now, this is a face model which you can train, or which another user has trained, by feeding an AI with tons of images of a person at different angles and with different expressions, from being happy to sad to talking, eating, shouting, screaming, or having their tongue stick out. And all of these images would be fed into this AI to create this deep face model, which gives you a very realistic, very coherent face for face swapping. So once you have this node on, first of all, we need to select our device. Now, again, it's always advised to use the GPU if you have one because it's going to run a lot faster. And then for the model, there's a list of predefined models you can choose from already. And so let's test out Jackie Chan and see what that gives us. This might take a while to load. But as you can see here, I have now turned myself into Jackie Chan. Now, note that this looks very realistic, and this is a lot more coherent than this face swap insight method, which only takes in a single photo as the face. Now, training a deep face model is very complicated and very technical, and it requires a lot of steps. Plus, you need to have a lot of images of a face at various angles doing various expressions. So training a model is beyond the scope of this tutorial, but if you really want to get into the weeds and train your own deep face model from scratch, I will link to another user's tutorial in the description below, and you can go through that. But instead of training a model from scratch, there are a lot of resources online where you could potentially find a deep face model that other users have already trained. So, for example, here are a few Discord channels where people have shared their custom deep face models. So this first one is called Share Your DFM Live, and I'll link to this in the description below, but if you scroll down to this DFM share channel, you can see that a few other people have shared deep face models of various people. And then another good resource would be this one called DF Live Sharing, and they also have a channel for DFM models that other people have shared. It's pretty much the same thing, to be honest. I think they just copied these over from the other channel. But I'll link to both of these Discord channels in the description below, and you can browse around with it and see if the face that you want already has a deep face model that someone made. So for example, let's search for Jisoo from Blackpink, and indeed we have Jisoo over here. So we can click on this link and then click save, and you can see that I saved it in user data and then DFM models, and then you can see my Jisoo320.dfm is saved here. So make sure all your DFM models are saved in this folder. So going back here, let's say we want to now use our Jisoo deepface model. All we got to do is select from this dropdown, and you should see Jisoo down here. So let me click on this, and you can see that I've now turned into Jisoo. I don't know, something looks off here. Let me know in the comments. Do I look like Jisoo? Maybe it's the hair. By the way, you might be wondering, how do we know for sure Deepface Live is the tool that this guy used? Well, here's proof. Here's another video I found, and this time you can see this is the Deepface Live interface. And here he's actually using a Deepface model for his demo. So again, if you want to go for better quality and consistency, using a deepface model instead of just an image is your best bet. By the way, it's crazy that I could only find 2 videos of this guy on the internet. I have no idea who he is or what the original source of this is. Usually I'm pretty good at tracking down the original source of something, but I just couldn't find any trace of this guy. If you happen to know who he is, please let me know in the comments below. Alright, so let me turn this off now, and then the final option is called Face Animator. Now this is a bit different compared to these 2 face swap methods. This basically takes in one of your input photos and animates that face. So let me show you right now. Let's turn this on, and then if you click on this eye icon, you should see that it takes you to the same folder where you have all these face images. So let's say I want to animate this face, this girl0.png. Well, all I gotta do is select from this dropdown. I will select girl0.png, and you can see that right now, I am animating her face, and this is in real time, so it's not doing any face swap, it's just basically taking my facial expressions and mapping that onto this girl's image. Now let's try some trickier expressions. So I'm going to frown. This is me frowning. It doesn't really look like she's frowning. What about smiling? Okay, she can smile kind of okay. It does look quite creepy though. Let me do it again. Yeah, that's moderately creepy. And then what about like tongue sticking out? Okay, I'm sticking out my tongue. She's not sticking out her tongue. So it can't really handle tricky expressions like that. But for just regular talking in real time, this is a really powerful tool. Now let's try another one. Let's try Kim Jong-un and see what that gives us. This is indeed Kim Jong-un, and I am indeed animating his photo. So this is a very powerful tool, and all of this is done in real time. Now, depending on the power of your hardware, or basically what GPU you have, you might get like a few milliseconds of delay. But other than that, I mean, it renders pretty quickly. So again, this is a very powerful tool, but it's not good with tricky expressions. So if you want more flexibility, definitely check out this video where I go over another free and open source tool called Live Portrait. This is really good at handling tricky expressions. Alright, let's try a few more other examples. Let's try Biden this time. Oh, this is really good. This is a really good real-time impersonator of Biden, I must say. Alright, so let me go back to the cute girl face. Alright, so you might be wondering a few things. The first question is, how do I change my voice into a girl too? Because if I'm animating this cute girl face, but it's a man's voice, that ain't gonna cut it. So there's another free and open source tool, which is a real-time voice changer called Okada. So you can simply just install that.
And use that in sync with this to change your voice into whoever you want. Now, of course, if you run both of these tools at the same time, it's really gonna max out your compute, and there might be an increase in delay. But I mean, that's how you would change your voice in real time, in addition to doing face swap in real time.
And I've made a full tutorial on Okada already, so check this video out if you haven't already. Alright, so now let me turn back into my cute girl face swap. Alright, so next you might be wondering, well, how do I stream this in real time, like on Discord or on a Zoom call? So if you go back to their Deepface Live GitHub page, and then under documentation, there's this page called Additional Setup for Streaming. If you click on that, it will give you some instructions. So first of all, you do need to have OBS Studio installed. This is a free tool for recording your screen and customizing different outputs. And this is actually the tool that I'm using right now to record this video. So first of all, let's open OBS, and then what it's telling me to do is add a new source, and then select window capture, and then it's going to create a new window capture. I'm going to click OK, and then in window, I'm going to select this one, Deepface Live Output. And if all goes well, you should see your output video from Deepface Live here. So let's click OK, and then now you should see your video here. So if I expand this window to whatever size I want, I can now stream this. So I just need to click on Start Streaming or Start Recording. And so you can stream yourself as a cute girl on Twitch or Discord, just like this. So yeah, I mean, this is basically how you turn yourself into a cute girl in real time. And that wraps up our tutorial on Deepface Live. If you have any questions or you run into any errors, please let me know in the comments below and I'll try to troubleshoot as much as possible. Also, let me know in the comments if you're actually going to use this. And if so, who are you going to turn into? Are you going to turn into a cute girl? And here's the main question. What are you going to use this for? Are you going to use this to troll your friends, or scam people, or catfish guys on Discord? What's your use case for this? Let me know in the comments below. As always, I will continue to look out for the newest and coolest AI tools to share with you. If you enjoyed this video, remember to like, share, subscribe, and stay tuned for more content. Also, we built a site where you can find all the AI tools out there, as well as look for jobs in AI, machine learning, data science, and more. So check that out at ai-search.io. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.